I'm going to demonstrate some of the features of Bob's Track Builder. I've been working on this for some time, and there's a few features in here which will help you build tracks, but some of them may not be so obvious, so I'll just run through what you can do. You can do circuits, or you can do open-ended tracks, and for each of these you simply click on the button and click and drag and move the control points for each of the nodes that you're at. That creates a spline, a line, and that just moves about all the polygons as you move the spline around. So you can do all sorts of interesting effects and different shapes, and pretty much you can build in some sharp corners there, and yeah, get fairly complicated shapes just all from the use of splines, and you know, the polygon mesh is done completely automatically for you. I'll just create a new one, and what we're going to do is create an open track as if it was a rally track. You can start anywhere on the screen, doesn't really matter, and just start plotting points fairly evenly spaced, and with control points just dragged out to try and make it even. When you finish, just right click and it switches to the mode which is move nodes and control points. So you can move that about, you can hold, you can move the control points about, either one. If we zoom in, you'll see the effect a bit better. You can drag and click both and hold shift down and move them both around, and we'll just end up tightening up our track a bit more, so it's a little bit more condensed here. If you want to condense the whole thing, you can select them all, hold the letter R down and click and drag towards the center. So it's pretty easy from that standpoint. You've got the 3D view here, which you can zoom in, hold shift again to zoom in quickly. Not that that's that quick, but the easiest way I find is just to quickly drive to your track, stop again, look down, and then zoom back with your mouse wheel. Holding shift down does it faster. And there's the track that we've just gone and created. If you wish to split these points, you can do so by splitting the curve, so you get more points within there, and then you can move those around individually. You'll notice that you start to get artifacts where the polygons cross over. Just here. If you want to smooth those sort of things out, obviously it's impossible to do too tight a turn with your polygons, but you've got more chance of easily fixing that in Bob's Track Builder, because you can just play with it a bit without changing the track shape too much, and iron out those little problem areas. The next thing you probably want to do with Bob's Track Builder is put some shape to your track. At the moment that's a completely flat surface, which isn't really much fun to drive on. So let's shape it a bit. You can move these points up and down, and you'll see the effect of doing that, in and out as well. Although again, you've got to be careful. If you move them too far out, you're going to get polygons start to cross over again. So we'll just slide that back in. You can add points to the shape. I'll get to move them around a bit so you can spread them out. If you render with the wireframe on as well, gives you a little bit more idea of what's going on. Add a few more points there and there, so you can see you can build up quite a bit of detail. The other side to this is the materials. What sort of material do you want applied? And what we can do is move these materials about just by clicking one end, dragging it in, drag it back out to that point. Same on the other side. And what we'll do is we'll add a bit of grass to the other side. So click the plus here to add a new material, select grass. Add again, it finds the next available space, and we add grass again. That's the simplest way to do it. If you want to turn that into a gravel road, you can do so by selecting it and then selecting a new face or cobbles, back to road. I'll leave it on road for the time being. I'm not the best material maker, so if you want to replace your textures with something, feel free to do so. I'll just make this mesh a little bit straighter again, and what I'll demonstrate now is just what other features you can do to quickly add bumps. Before I do that, I'll just change the panel length. Panel length is the distance from here to there, or I should say the average distance, because as the spline tightens up you get more polygons around the curves. It's just a natural artifact of using splines, and it helps make the corners smoother and uses less polygons on the straights. You can adjust that for different surfaces just by typing in here. Change it to 3, change it to 1, change it to 10 if you want to spare your polygons, and we'll switch it back to, say, 4. Now what we're going to do is go back to the start of our track, and we're going to add some more variations in the cross section of the track as we proceed along here. So we'll just add a couple of surfaces. And to begin with, they're not going to set the shape or the material. The only one doing that is the first surface. So what we do here is we say we're going to change the shape at this point along the track by checking this checkbox. Sorry, that's the materials. For the shape, check the checkbox there, and it says along here we're free to move these points up and down, and it won't affect the stuff happening at that point. But you'll see by doing so, it allows us great flexibility to move things up and down without affecting this first piece. If I uncheck that, it reverts back to doing what surface 1 was doing. So surface 2 and surface 3 don't do anything. If I check surface 2 and surface 3, surface 3 will have, and in fact all surfaces will share the same shape at the moment. If I now go to surface 2 and change this, we'll add a bump, but the bump will only exist between these points. The bump, the cross section looks exactly like this at this line across the road, and it's interpolated between each of the other surfaces that set the shape. So you can do some interesting things there by putting in gutters or ditches or anything like that, just in certain places of the track that you want. So if you want a big ditch in just that section there, you can do so. If you want that ditch to be confined, not stretched out over the track so much, you can do that by bringing the other surfaces close together. And you could actually add another surface in here, tell it to set the shape, and now you'll find the ditch only exists between these points. If we come back to our ditch, select a few more, we'll just exaggerate that so that you can see. I find motion actually helps you see what you're doing to the track. That's the good thing about this interactive interface. There is no apply button. I had considered that, and it would have made my job a lot easier. But I think one of the great benefits is that you can actually see in real time what you're working on there. Now, I've briefly shown materials and what you can do with materials. There are a few advanced options here. I won't go into it because it's another tutorial altogether. You can remove surfaces by selecting a surface and clicking there. I won't do it at the moment because I'm quite happy with that little patch. I'll move on to the next feature here, which is the width multiplier. This allows you, regardless of whatever shape you've applied to the track, to multiply the width for the duration of the track. At the moment there's just one width multiplier, and whatever we enter in here will affect the rest of the track. We'll change that back to 1 because by default you should probably set the cross section under your surfaces to the width that you want. And you can see up here we've got a display of in meters and point centimeters of how wide it is. So it's actually 7.5 meters from the center. Same on the other side, roughly. By default it is anyway. But it doesn't really matter. You don't have to be exact. Now, what we can do is go back to the widths. Add, again, I tend to put a couple of width modifiers in so you can clamp it back down to 1 at the end. And what we do is change the middle ones. We'll change this to 3. It's a little bit big. Let's change it to 1.5. So you can see it bulges there. Here we can change it to 0.5 and you'll see it restricts. And it flows and alters all of the polygons automatically for you. Let's set that back to 1.5 as well. And you'll notice that between those two sections it remains constant. So now what we can do is actually slide these along and change the effect of how wide you want it and for what duration. That's pretty much all width multipliers do. I'll just take a step backwards now and we'll go back to our nodes, and I'll show you a few other things we can do with this, or you really should be doing. At the moment our track is very flat, spreads across the landscape. If we want it to go up a hill, we need to start moving these up and down on the side on view. I'll start by just lowering this section a bit first. Hold shift down when moving these up and down. That way it avoids, you can't actually select a control point. And it allows you to just move the nodes up and down without changing the control points, without wiggling those around. If you hold shift, you never select those control points. Handy tip. Anyway, moving along, I'll leave those where they are. We'll move these up a bit. And we'll move the next ones up even higher. So you can see our road now has a bit of height to it. It's going up a slight hill. If you want to exaggerate that, you can fairly easily. I tend to do sections like this and then with individual ones just move them up and down just for a little bit of variety in your track. It's easy to do, it's easy to undo. So now we've got a little bit more variety. I'll turn the polygons off so that we can actually fly over our track now and just see the dips and valleys a little bit more. You can move your cursor around. The helicopter's not too smooth when there's a number of nodes in close together. I need to work on that. And yeah, that should bring us all the way back to the start of our track. There we are again. This piece is looking a little bit messy, so let's go and clean that up. And keep some bends in there, so bends are good. But the way we do this, we need to just open it up a bit so that we can create those bends without overlapping those polygons. Okay, looking reasonably good, still got a little problem there. Okay, let's quickly go back to the start of our track. And what you should probably have done also is repeated this kind of surface changes throughout the rest of your track. I won't do it because it's the time consuming part, but it's certainly a lot easier than trying to do it in Max. Well, certainly I don't know how to do it in Max. The camber of the track is probably one of the good features as well. If we want to change the camber throughout the track, it's just a matter of moving this from side to side, and that'll work from this camber all the way forward through to wherever it finds the next camber, which in this case, we'll put one there, put one there, put one there, and we'll just mark bits of the track where we expect camber changes to really take effect. And now we'll just go and individually assign those. So I'll just move through. That's fairly straight. That one will curve just to the left a little bit, curve it back to the right a little bit. And I just do all of this blindly based on what this curve is actually doing. And then once you've done those, it's a good idea to drive around your track or fly around it and see what's happening. It's rather a steep crest there, we might smooth that out. It doesn't look too bad. Alright, so this hill's rather exaggerated, doesn't need to be that tall. Let's go and move that back down to a reasonable rate. That's obviously this bit here. Set that down. Earth control point so it's smoothed out a bit more. There we have it. You see this little section makes it easier to add a lot of character to your track. And if you combine it with your surfaces and changing these shapes, then you get a great texture to it. The next thing I guess I should show quickly, this is the most recent feature I added, was walls. Walls are fairly simple to add. You just click plus and then drag someone on the track, and you'll see it gets generated a default distance from the center. Once you've created it, you can then move the whole wall from side to side. It'll follow it doesn't obey the track surface at the moment, so you'll find those width modifiers aren't being applied to your wall. I may put options in to do that, but more likely what I'm going to do is allow you to snap the wall to these individual lines running along the length of your track, so that you could have a wall running along the line here or on the outside of the grass, and it'll match up perfectly. Currently it's kind of half independent of the track. I'll get rid of those with modifiers so that you can see the real effect. The other thing that you can do to try and see the features a little bit better is to just move the sunshine around. And the other thing you can do with walls is, apart from moving the surfaces like that, you can move them in and out, hold shift down to move them in and out like that. You can also modify the shape of the wall, just as you would with track surfaces. This screen is very similar, and you can just move the points in and out to affect the wall. And doing those sort of things, you can start to get a little bit more creative or silly, depending on what your thoughts are. So add a new track here, and we're going to set the shape up here, and we'll apply, let's do a cobble landscape, and we'll move that wall in here, and in the shape we get it, it's only a small wall, and we'll just drag it up to be a little bit larger, and now we've suddenly got a roof. Add some walls and you can start creating tunnels. So it's got a lot of flexibility there. Again, you've got the same features. You can change the mesh so that it takes up less polygons than your track does, but follows the same shape. Lastly, I think I should wind it up pretty soon, but all that you've seen so far is in the commercial version, the Pro version. The next piece is what I'm currently working on, and that's if you want to create a new track, you can do so just by creating one of these buttons and then start clicking, moving it around. And now if I switch to this mode, you can now click and drag those around, and by holding the M key down, M for magnet is what I've chosen, but may well change by the time I release it. It snaps the road together, and this code is by no way complete, but you'll see the kind of effect that you can do. You can just move that around, and if you zoom right in on here and shift that point down slightly, you'll see that it no longer interjoins with that track. Anyway, that's a overview of Bob's Track Builder. I hope you've enjoyed that. It gives you an impression of what's achievable in a short amount of time.